involved in the military?
I was drafted. The government drafted me in 1943. Well, when I was drafted, I went to work at Hillfield. In my senior year in high school, they had a class at the university, Utah State University, in our airplane engine mechanics. So after school, I would pedal my bicycle up to the university.
What service were you in?
The United States Air Force.
And how long?
How long?
21 years. I broke my service up in 6 years, then I got recalled to active duty during the Cuban crisis, and I decided then when I was called back in for those couple of years, I'd stay and make it a career, so I finished 21 years. I think the most favorite that I remember was Christmas Eve. And we were over in France. I was the postal officer, and all the families were counting on their Christmas presents through the mail system. And Christmas Eve came, and a lot of packages hadn't been delivered, hadn't arrived, and our mail truck went into Paris to pick up the mail that came in from the States. And there's all these kind of presents and packages for the families that lived on the base. I put these presents in my car, and I went around to the trailers, that's who we lived in, trailers then, and knocked on the door and said, "Here's your present for Christmas." They were so happy to think that their present did get there for Christmas Eve, and I was so happy that I could make them happy by delivering their Christmas presents. And some were so exuberant that they had started to party. Come on in, have some, and they started. I said, "Oh no, I had a good excuse. I've got these other presents I got to deliver." So I was able to get out of that situation real easy. And I think that was the most fun time, is I got to help other people be happy for Christmas.
So we wound up with C-46 cargo planes. I wound up as crew chief with 10 men and 5 airplanes. Our first assignment was in New Guinea in the Southwest Pacific. And from there we went to the island of Biak. There was a few experiences there I could tell you about, but I don't know whether I should or not. But like my outfit was, the main body of our organization was about a mile away from the landing strip. But they had to have one outfit, one group down at the airport for emergency purposes. There was a guard that had his throat cut just about a block or two from where our tent was, which we couldn't sleep at night. And if something would have happened, we probably would have shot each other because we were in an 8-man tent. And so we got our heads together and put up a pole, went to the junkyard and found a light from an airplane that had been destroyed, and found some wire, what we called chicken wire, put around our tent. Then we found a battery, and we would connect it at night. The last one in had to flip a switch, so in case anything would touch that wire or anything else, the light would come on and the siren would go off. So after that, we slept pretty well.
What was your least favorite part?
When I had to go to Vietnam, I had an unaccompanied tour. I had to leave my family here in this house, and my daughter that you just met tonight, when she'd make a recording to send to me on a tape, she would say, "Hi Dad, this is Marja." And I'd think, "Don't you know I know who you are?" Did you think that you had to tell me which child it was? And when I spent different than that Christmas I just talked about, how lonely it was Christmas to be over in Vietnam, where we stayed in a building, and at night we'd go up on the roof and we could see all on the outskirts of the town mortar fire, where the army people were out firing, shooting guns. And I thought, I was right in close to the big air base, Tonson Air Base, and felt safe and secure. But a time or two, a mortar would lop over and it would hit the plastic that was up to our window. And I thought, well, that's pretty close, but that's the closest I got of being ever hit or involved in the actual combat part of Vietnam.
So they put me in as line chief. So I had 25 airplanes and about 100 men to look over. And so I'd make sure that I got down to the line to make sure all the crews were working. The captain would come down and make sure that his pilots were there. We'd wait until the planes took off, and then occasionally we would go and check out the airplanes, fly the planes, and occasionally he'd let me fly the plane. This one time he says, well, Dale, take it in for a landing. So that land was coming up pretty fast, and I said, you better take over. So the atomic bombs had gone off in Japan, and then we went from there up to Fusa in Japan Air Base, where we, when we landed, there were still Japanese airplanes on the landing strip. So I said to the pilot, I said, I sure hope that they know that the war is over with.
Then I remained on active duty at Travis, but then the year later I was sent to Itazuki Air Base in Japan when the North Koreans captured our USS Pueblo, which was,
Really
we were in the
tense?
command post on alert. We couldn't stay, we lived on base, but we had to all stay in the command post, ready for any immediate action. And these reserve units had their aircraft parked down the other end of the runway, ready to go on separate operations. They had their different targets assigned to them, so they're ready to get up, intercept anything. And of course they wanted to get the naval crew back intact and not killed. So there was diplomacy and a matter of trying to get them and be safe, but they ended up being captured, and I guess some of them, to a degree, as I understand it, were still not necessarily tortured, but interrogated in a way to where it was very inhumane.
We had a couple times when Japanese airplanes would come in under the radar. You'd have to be quite alert to that. And then one night they had a movie going on, and a Japanese airplane came in under radar and dropped a bomb through the movie screen and killed several people. And so you had to be alert most all the time. Occasionally, besides enemies, a lot of these islands too, there were still Japanese soldiers on the middle part of the island. And besides that, you had to watch out for snakes too. There's several snakes, which I hate. And so occasionally we'd come across some snakes, poisonous snakes. Well, being raised here in Cache Valley, under strict Mormon rules. And so I was kind of a neophyte in a way when I went in, and I was in with older people from the South and the East Coast. And so you grew up in a hurry that way. Their language, for one thing, you had to kind of protect your, close your ears, to some of that. But other than that, you learn to get along with people.
Did it feel like you were, because it was such an historic time when we look back at it, at the time for you, did it feel like it was historic for you?
No, not especially.
No.
It was just something that was an assignment, you know, and so it was just realistic. And so, as far as historic goes, no.
If you had a message for the young people today about your military service and military service in general, what would you say?
I hope our young men will realize how important freedom is to our country. And I would encourage you to support always loyalty to your country, respect the flag, don't ever be ashamed to stand at attention when the flag goes by. That flag represents freedom, opportunity, and we feel that our Constitution was inspired by God. And I think we owe a respect and appreciation and love for this great country, and we're fortunate to live in the greatest country in the world.